Hi everybody, welcome to Chapter 5 of our lecture for this week. This is the first one in a while that we've done that's entirely online. We're going to talk about one of the no-brainers in our approaches to leadership. We're going to be looking at the situational approach to leadership. When you're relating this to the principalship, I really want you to think about this as really what principals do. I always, when I'm talking about this with people, I always say that this is kind of the IEP model of education, the fact that everybody's different and every situation is different. So when you're looking at the Nordhaus text and trying to compare it to the principalship, try to keep that in mind as you look at some of the content that's in this chapter. So most leaders do adjust to the situations they face based on their leadership style and their abilities. One of the things that I was looking at over the past few months prior to recording this video was, is it advantageous for a school principal to come into their position at the beginning of the school year or in the middle of the school year? I found arguments for both. I think as change agents, if you are somebody that is coming into a situation that's going to be rough and difficult to change, coming in the middle of the year is actually to your advantage because you can kind of just keep your hand on 10 and 2 and stay there and stay solid for the last 5 months of the school year and get your plan in action for the following year. If you come in as a change agent and you're starting out the year, you might not be able to make change to the culture and the organization for a full year. Principals deal with that struggle, and they deal with a lot in their positions, which is one of the reasons why situational leadership is real and it's true. Most principals will make decisions based on who they impact and who they affect. So please try and keep that in mind as you're looking at some of our material that we're going to be covering. So the word itself, I would argue, is a dirty word. If I say that I'm situationally smart or I'm situationally a leader, some people kind of take exception to that. It is a dirty word. So is it wrong to be a situational leader? Do you think your staff would look at you differently if you were? I've used the example so far this entire class of that, the B+ school that's doing just great. What if that school all of a sudden became a D school? Would the situation change? Would the leadership style change? Try to think about that as you're molding your own style. For some of you that are going to select a leadership style, if you're in a district that has changing demographics, let's be honest, Broken Arrow and Union, changing demographics. Situational leadership might be appropriate there. Some of your smaller school districts, your Bixby's, your Claremores maybe not, because they're going to be a little more consistent. But try to think about whether this leadership style would fit your model at your district. So leaders match their style to the competence and commitments of their subordinates. So another way that you can think about this, what if you had a completely new and young teaching staff in front of you? What does that look like? What's going to be different with a young teaching staff that's different with an older teaching staff? Leaders adapt to the environment around them. I think we all do. Different situations demand different kinds of leadership. For me, this is big adapting that I'm still dealing with and trying to understand, moving from pretty much living in the city in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to a very rural area. I'm unaccustomed to that, but I'm trying to adapt and lead in a different way. I think training and development with new leaders, you're going to see a lot more of situational leadership because you're looking at styles that people have, and you're really seeing how they can bring it out in others, and what the experiences that others have really dictate what the leader has and what the leader should be doing. I would treat a veteran teaching staff much differently than I would a young teaching staff. And for those of you that are in 5473, we're going to spend probably a week talking about the difference between veteran staffs and young staff, so I kind of think that's important too. So situational leadership has to have task behaviors and relationship behaviors, which is similar to the style approach of leadership. I kind of think that's a no-brainer as well. But what are directive behaviors? They're giving directions, establishing goals and how to achieve them, evaluation and defining roles. Ask yourself right now, and if I had a board I would draw this, would you like to be in the situation in Tulsa Public Schools where 68% of the teachers are going to be considered average, and only 16% are going to be above average, and 16% are going to be below average? It's going to change the directive behaviors, isn't it? Because you know that 2 out of 3 in your building are going to be just okay. I'm going to get into this class a lot later about kind of my concept and notion and my idea of the teacher as a narcissist. One of the things when you have evaluation and timelines of people that you're going to tell 2/3 of them, hey, you're doing okay. And you're just going to say that. I mean, they're doing okay, they're doing average, they're meeting expectations. That's going to cause a problem for people that are very passionate about what they do in their job. So, timelines in education. I hate timelines. It is my biggest pet peeve, but you have to understand that different states, different organizations have different problems with timelines. I would argue in the state of Oklahoma, based on my experience here so far, a lot of the timelines come from infighting up at the State Board of Education and not so much at the district level. My exposure with district level timelines in most districts has been very good. If you've had a different experience than me, that's fine. I have not seen the kind of the infighting at the local level that I have at the state level. At the local level, I really see in this state a lot of school boards that get along with their superintendents. And I'll be honest with you, coming from Pennsylvania and working with Pennsylvania and Ohio, I did not see that. I saw more infighting between the superintendent and the school board. And here, I find most school boards are kind of on the same page as the superintendents. So timelines are really pushed down from the state, and the superintendents are kind of given this hurry up and wait mentality. And then the teachers have to deal with those timelines because the superintendent then has to tell it to the principals, who then has to share it with the teachers. That can be a problem. If you are in the middle of a great initiative for your building and something comes down from the state, you're stuck. Your initiative is put on hold until the state initiative is met. The whole concept of teacher evaluation in the state changed so much. And you're going to be able to look back on this historically in 5 or 10 years and say, there really was a lot of interesting things going on in Oklahoma that you can look at and say, wow, this was rushed, this came out, this either worked or it didn't work. I mean, who knows what it's going to do. But it really came out, and it came out quickly in this state. And a lot of people are still adjusting to it. The one thing that I think we can all say is it's not going away, which is probably a good thing at this point, because at least we know and we can expect it. So, as I'm saying, this is big in Oklahoma. Teacher evaluation has multiple observations, a portfolio, and administrators are responsible for managing this. And that can be challenging. Some of you are going to be buildings on your own. If you're in an elementary school, probably going to be on your own. Then you have to do all the observations, all the analysis yourself. And my fear when I teach a supervision class is really getting principals to understand that you're making decisions, and the smartest thing that you can do as a new principal is do the best people first, because you get them out of the way, you know they're going to be there, you know they're going to do well, and it gives you practice. Your evaluation system now here it's triple in this state compared to what it used to be, because honestly, and this is strange for me to say this, I think Oklahoma was doing a better job on teacher evaluation than Pennsylvania was. I think there was more input from the principal, and I think there was more input from the teacher. Oklahoma's nowhere near what Ohio is doing yet. Let's be very clear about that. Ohio is doing a lot, and they're really engaging their teachers for national board certification, and it's kind of built in. But I think Oklahoma was doing a lot with this already, but now we're adding on another layer, and we're adding on another level of responsibility, meaning that principals have to be more situational, and they have to use the teacher evaluation system as they can fit it in, and make sure that they do it, and make sure there aren't any crises that pop up, randomly at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. So then we have the supportive behaviors. These are things like asking for input, problem solving, and praising and listening. Once again, I would argue that supportive behaviors are something that really comes with knowing the people that you're working with. When you ask somebody for input, there are people I've learned, over my time being here so far, that I would never ask for input. If I asked them for input, they'd take that and they would use it against me. But there are people that I feel like I can reach my hands out to, and they'd be more than willing to help. Problem solving, same deal. You have to know who the people are, who are the people that are holding the pieces of the puzzle that can be the most helpful to you as you solve problems, and you can also work with them. And praising and listening as well, I think that depends on the people in the organization. So, praise. You're gonna have a lot of different experiences and challenges figuring out how much praise to give your staff. Most staff members just expect praise all the time, and that expectation can lead to disappointment if it's not met. I worked in Mount Lebanon, and one of the crazy things we had, and this was in Pittsburgh, was over Christmas. They came around, and we had just got a new union contract. You know, I'm not a union person, but you know, for everybody, this was a big deal, and there was a major raise and a major incentive that was built into it. Well, there was also a salary freeze that was built in as well. So everybody was getting rewarded and saying, you know, great, we got a new contract, but there was a salary freeze. I can tell you those 3 weeks, before Christmas, really made a difference in the morale of teachers. And I think the timing and the use of praise to say, here, you're rewarded with this, but there's a salary freeze. It wasn't an effective use of praise, and the timing was bad. You have to make up for missed opportunities when you can, because, teachers don't like criticism. I don't like to be criticized. It bothers me more than anything, and all of you in this room probably don't like to be criticized either. But in terms of praise, you expect it, and I expect it too. So you need to know when and how to praise, and doing it effectively as a principal. It works differently with some leaders than it does for others. So, there's a quadrant model of situational leadership. I'm going to take the publisher slides because it's probably the best way to highlight the quadrants. If this is a theory that you like, I would strongly encourage you to read this chapter of the book. You know what I keep saying about this class? This is not a read the book class, but this is a pretty much memorize the chapters that you think are going to affect you as you're pursuing your certification. If this chapter pertains to you, you need to know this model. So we have the quadrant style. Your directing leader is focused on communication and goal achievement. They basically say this is what needs to be done, this is how it is accomplished. They're not going to give supportive behaviors, they're not going to give encouragement, they're just worried about checking off the box. We've all had leaders that work like this. They're high directive and they're low supportive. You have your coaching leaders. They focus on communication and goal achievement, but one of the things that I would stress with coaching leaders is, truthfully, I love this model, we all love this model, is people spend a hell of a lot of time. And that's one of the problems and challenges with the coaching model of leadership. You're going to be engaged with your teachers quite frequently. You're going to have a lot of subordinates that are also coaching as well. But to meet others' emotional needs, it's going to be draining on you. And the sustainability of somebody who's a coaching leader doesn't really work that. It doesn't really work that often for the long term. Your supporting style. These are your leaders that can actually delegate and let decision making, happen at the teacher level or the teacher leader level and the department chair level. And this is a great approach. But one of the things that, when you lose directive, you better ensure the organization is operating as close to capacity as it can already. You're not your great schools, but you're really good schools. They can manage on this model. You're a principal at a really good school, you're fine. I mean, you can, if you're doing well, you're meeting your objectives, you're meeting your goals, you can really help the employees nurture and facilitate their skills as well, which is something that I think is important, and the supporting style tends to work well in that environment. The delegating style. These are people that just pretty much push the papers. This is what this person has to do, this is what that person has to do, and this is what this looks like. My experience has shown me these are more of your veterans. These are people that are looking to transition out of education anyway. It's not that they're passing the buck to others, but they're giving others the responsibility. But the problem is they're also not giving them directions on what they're supposed to be doing. And they stay out of it. So one of the things that you have to see, and why this model actually works situationally, you're looking at your followers. What do your followers need? And then you change your style based on what the developmental level of your followers are. So for those that aren't that competent but are highly committed, you're going to be doing a lot more with them. For those that are highly competent and highly committed, you probably can delegate more. So that's where the situational piece of the situational model comes in for this. So let's look at this. Like I said, Nordhaus doesn't do this, but this is the point of this class. We're putting this in terms of what school principals do. Principals that are directing send you monthly or weekly memos. They are factual. They offer little to show people that they're there for support. Their door is closed. They're in their office. If you need anything, you come to them. These are more of your compliance principles. They're there entirely on a compliance level more than anything else. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it wrong? I don't know. Depends on your organization. Coaching. These are the ones that constantly tell you that the school is a team and everybody has to work together to achieve their goals. There's part of me that's a cynic. I don't necessarily particularly agree with that all the time as well. These are people that can come to the classroom one-on-one and always put on a positive face, which is good. But once again, I think this is a draining form of leadership. You're looking for people that can step in, can initiate and manage change, but unfortunately, it does really hurt people, and it can drain, and you need to keep that in mind. So the supporting style, this is the principal that jumps out, wants to give everybody anything they can to accomplish their goals. They let the staff take the credit, and they're there to facilitate. I always ask what the challenges and problems with these types of leaders are. I think this is the right approach to have. Unfortunately, we're in a very competitive profession, and if you don't take credit for things yourself, somebody else is going to. Some people can operate effectively on this model. There are times when you give your credit to your subordinates, but there are times that you have to take it yourself, especially if you're trying to move up yourself, and depending on the relationship you have with the people that are above you. It's why I make the argument that the principal's that magical person in the middle that's stuck between central administration and the teachers. And supporting style can be good, but there are problems with it as well. Central administration, you're a career superintendent, you're doing well for yourself, great style. This is an amazing style if that's you. So the delegating style. Give your assistant principals tasks to do, give your department chairs tasks to do, and focus on your own thing. If you're in a district and you're in a building really that really is doing a lot of assessment, accreditation type of things, I really think you could delegate a lot of your tasks to your assistant principals and department chairs, but ultimately the buck stops with you. You are still accountable for the success and failures as the building principal, so if this doesn't work and your assistant principal screws up, you in turn screw up. So before you delegate, think about that and consider the ramifications that are involved in it. So once again, we show you the model. I want you to kind of think about the model a little bit as we look forward to this. And if this is something you want to write your paper about, you're certainly welcome to. So what is the focus of this? Your subordinates are going to change their level of competence and commitment to the organization. Most people, and you'll know this from looking at your business books, come into an organization really gung-ho. They're ready to go. They have energy, they have excitement, and as they learn the organization, they might not be as passionate or care as much anymore. The leader has to know what those people are, what their developmental position are, what their leadership style is, and the leaders have to be flexible themselves for this approach to work as well. So, what are the strengths of this model? It's credible, it's effective, it's been tested. Most leaders are flexible leaders, and most principals are flexible principals. And people need to be treated to their own unique needs as well. So I do like this approach. I think this is good. The weakness of this is, while there's a lot of research on it, not much research has validated this approach working, because truthfully, when you look at literature on situational approach, you're going to have to do it longitudinally, right? So you're going to have to look at a principal who's been there for about 5 years and teachers who've been there, and all of us have been in education long enough to know that the doors change, the doors open, the doors close all the time. Trying to measure commitment that people claim they have and commitment that they have, that's difficult too. So when there's no demographics too, in education, this is a major challenge. I made the argument that a good urban teacher will be effective in a suburban school, but a good suburban teacher might not be effective in an urban school. Demographics are situational, and in education, demographics change all the time. So questionnaires are very biased in favor of this type of leadership, and are questionnaires really that effective to begin with? You have to ask yourself that as well. So What can you do? This is very common in trainings. If I were coming into your district and doing a training, I would probably look at situational leadership. It's straightforward, it's easy, managers can apply it, and it can be applicable